Punch the list.
Small news flash for all of you out there. If you've been living under a rock, Tanner McDaniel is the latest pipeline champion to join the list of legends of the sport of bodyboarding. The announcement came only a few days ago, and I jumped straight onto a podcast with Tanner to talk to him about how it feels to be the winner and what it means for him moving forward. I hope you enjoy, and congratulations again, Tanner McDaniel. So, Tanner, you've just got the news that you are the Boog Jam pipe champion for 2022. Before I get your reaction on that, I just want to let you know that the history books say that was the 40th year that since Pipeline first started as a competition for bodyboarding, 40 years. It's
Wow.
also I believe it's the 23rd or 24th time that the event itself has run. I'll just better double check my history books there, but it's basically it's been a big deal over those years. Actually, I need to count that again. Let me check that out. 1 sec. Let me get my stats right before we make any bold announcements. 36. So that was the 36th competition held. I believe
Wow.
that you're the 17th pipeline champion in history.
Wow. All right.
So how does that feel? You know, in terms of its kind of seriousness for your life and goals and whatnot. How does that feel to know that?
Yeah, I mean it's absolutely like a life goal achieved for me. Like since I was a grom, like started bodyboarding, like pipeline was kind of the mecca for me. Like, and for a lot of bodyboarders, I'm sure. So winning that event is like, for me, is like that's like one of the greatest achievements that I feel like you can achieve. Like that's up there at the top for me. And it's been interesting, like, because you don't find out right when it happens. It's not like this big rush, like right after the final or anything. It hasn't been such like a super big high and then like kind of ride that for a little bit and then come down. Like it's been, since I found out, it's been a few days and it's kind of just been like a slow burn, kind of not super high, but just like slow burn, like stoke, like it's been a different feeling. Like I'm just as stoked, but it's just kind of like processing through me differently. Like compared to like other events that I've won or other achievements that I've had, it's just kind of like I'm processing it a little differently because it wasn't such a right in the moment, like super huge high. And then like, that's kind of it. It's been like a little bit more anticipation, not super high, just kind of like, okay, like here we go. Like, yeah. So it's just, I've been processing it differently, but it's been cool. And like I said, it's a lifetime achievement for me. Like this is something that I've wanted for as long as I've been bodyboarding, and so I'm stoked.
That I think is the interesting point I want to find out. I don't know the answer to this, but how old are you now? How long have you been bodyboarding? And how many times have you competed at Pipeline until this point?
So I'm 23 now. I turned 23 the day after the event ran. It's actually, I was hoping to get to talk about this. I did the pipe comp for the first time 10 years ago. So this was the 10-year anniversary from when I first did the pipe comp when I was 12. And I knew that going into it. So this was also, it was a weird birthday for me because I spent my 13th birthday after the pipe comp when I did it for the first time on the North Shore of Oahu. And then I was turning 23 after the event. So it was just a weird, like, this is the first like I guess, birthday that I've been like, whoa, like this is like that kind of realization really hit me this year, where I was like, oh my god, like wow, it's been 10 years since I did the first event, because that was like such a whirlwind of a thing that happened to me. Like making that event was just like I couldn't comprehend it at the time, and then now 10 years later, yeah, it's I've been like I've had some time to reflect about it, and it feels it's really cool. That's funny. I got a little sentimental before the event ran this year. I watched, there's an old video of me from the 2012 event that I did, and there's just this funny interview where I'm just such a little kid, and I watched it, and they talk about like Mike paddling out in the channel with me. I watched it before the event ran, and I just got to just get a little sentimental about it, so it was cool.
That's really interesting. I was thinking of that before I asked that question. I was kind of like, I feel like it's been 10 years since that. I felt
Yeah,
like I wasn't sure of the date, but I felt like it was. And, funnily enough, that's there's a lot of interesting things there. I didn't realize that, you won, like it was the 2022 event and you were 22 when you won it. Like there's these,
yeah,
there's these kind of interesting alignments there with numbers and circumstance. And I
yeah.
guess
It's
one of the interesting circumstances though, when you contrast it to that first event 10 years ago, and I remember this footage now. I remember this like little kid with Mike next to him, and I remember you were kind of flipping out at
yeah,
Sandy Beach at half point to make it into the comp, right? There was this full grovel
yeah,
comp. Like it looked pretty small, and how did you go in that
yeah.
grovel comp
Um,
in the trials?
so yeah, I mean, they didn't have like a finals or anything. They just basically got the top. I think you had to make quarter, or maybe you had to make semis, and then you're in the event. So I really did the event just to kind of get experience in kind of that caliber of competition. I wasn't expecting like, oh, okay, maybe I'll make a few heats. I'll get to like kind of try to prove myself. But I wasn't really, I didn't have high hopes that I was going to make the event. And it's actually, it's a pretty funny story. So I actually qualified for the pipeline comp. I didn't have to do trials. I qualified just to be straight in the main event. And they were planning on running what I would have been competing in like 12-foot pipe. And I remember I was like, no, I want to do trials. Like I came here to get experience, like competing in like I just wanted to surf heats against those guys. Like, so I was like, okay, just put me in the trials. And then I qualified again for the event.
Jeez.
So it's pretty funny. Yeah.
We can put you in trials next time and let you recompete for re-qualify for the you want, mate. I'm sure someone will take the spot.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure someone would be stoked.
They would be. I think with but with the notable difference between those, I want to keep on contrasting those experiences, because in the 2012 example, you're 12 years old, right? Because it was before your birthday,
Yeah.
so you're 12. You've got
Yeah,
Mike Stewart
12.
there caddying for you, like he's out in the channel for you. He was he talking to you during your heats, like trying to give you advice whilst you were in the lineup at Pipeline? Like how did that work? And what I'm getting to is that this year Mike wasn't there at all. Like the guy that was
Yeah.
there for your first experience, and who obviously for anyone's first experience at Pipeline, if you got Mike Stewart sitting in the channel, who's got your back, you feel pretty good.
Yeah.
This year, Mike's not even on island, missing the first event of his life. I think that's the first one he's ever missed, and you win
Yeah.
it. So there's also this really interesting kind of situation there for me, looking at that relationship and what it might have meant, back then versus today, to have him there.
Yeah, I mean, I hadn't even really thought about that. But I mean, yeah, having Mike there with me the first year was like so critical for me. Like I was shitting myself paddling out for my heat in the main event. And yeah, he just kind of was there to reassure me. He didn't say too much during the heat. He kind of just was there if I needed it or I wanted it. He gave me some pointers beforehand, like just kind of showed me around the reef, and I had paddled out with him a couple times before that, and he kind of just showed me around, just get a little bit familiar with the lineup. But as far as like in the heat, he was just kind of there for support. And yeah, I mean, I wasn't like stopping in the channel to have a chat. I was kind of just like focused on just getting through the heat. It was kind of
Yeah.
a big whirlwind. So there might be stuff that I just don't remember, but that whole week was like the craziest week of my life.
Mm. Bringing it back to this event though, like, was it weird to not have Mike at pipe? Was that a strange feeling? I know that all of us were kind of tripping out on the day. We're like, wow, he's not here. And, that's a big person not there. Did that, reflecting on that, was that weird for you not to be competing with Mike at Pipeline?
It did feel weird that he wasn't there, but as far as as far as me personally like competing, it didn't, because usually when I'm in the event, Mike is running it. So he's busy. Like I don't even really see him the day of the event. So as far as like not really getting to like communicate with him during the event, it wasn't that different from a normal one. But yeah, it felt a little bit empty not having Mike there, just because he is kind of like, he's Mike at pipe. Like, there's a certain correlation between the two, so.
On that, I mean, with 10 years since your, is it safe to say that you mentioned that Mike gave you the lay of the reef, before that heat, when you were 12?
Yeah.
Had you surfed pipe much at all before that moment? Was it kind of a completely unknown space for you?
I had surfed it maybe a handful of times. I can distinctly remember 3 sessions. But I think I might have paddled out a couple more times, but I had only surfed it a handful of times. So I wasn't super familiar with the reef. I kind of had some lineups that Mike had given me, so I kind of knew where to sit. I knew where I could basically go to get safe if there was a set. I knew kind of like, just kind of at that point, I was just thinking, okay, how do I survive this? Because at that point in like personally, I was not into bigger waves. I was not into waves of consequence at that point in my life. Like that was something that I had to really overcome.
Most 12-year-olds aren't.
So it was yeah. Maybe I'm a little harsh on myself.
Yeah.
But yeah, I had surfed it a few times, and it was a funny story. I paddled out one of the evenings, one of the few sessions I had before the event. I paddled out with Timmy Hamilton, and I remember it was decent size. It wasn't big pipe by any standards, but I was still, scared. And I remember he kind of like paddled out with me. He was sitting with me like kind of on the shoulder. And every time there would be a set coming, I would start trying to paddle towards the channel. And I remember him just like grabbing me by the wetsuit and just like holding me there. And he's like, "You're going to be fine. You just stay right here. Like, you got to just see what it's like. Don't just run off." Like, just kind of holding me in the spot. And I was like, I gotta go. And he's just like, "No, you're going to be okay. Like, you're going to learn, you know?" And that's just a funny story that I'd look back now, like he was like really trying to help. Like it was, yeah.
Would have been
That was cool.
terrifying as well. With
Yeah,
this with this journey from those years then, because it's safe to say that journey with Pipeline, you've only surfed it a few times, a handful of times before that competition, and then then you've got this 10-year journey that goes from 2012 until 2022.
Yeah.
How important was Mike during those 10 years to you in learning about that wave? Like, or if it wasn't Mike, what were the other influences that made you the bodyboarder that you are today, the one that won the Boog Jam that won his first pipe championship. Like, what's the journey from 2012 to 2022 look like in terms of influences, and how do you get there?
It's that's a tough one because Mike was very helpful in kind of showing me how to navigate the reef and navigate the crowd out there. I have taken a lot of knowledge from him about kind of where to sit and where to sit on the reef and kind of just stuff like that. That's what I got most from Mike. That's what he has been very, very like beyond helpful with, beyond willing to like give me the information that I needed, basically. And there was one season, I think maybe the year after my first event, I was on the North Shore for a few months just, and he would come, it was when Mike was still living on Oahu, so he would come and pick me up every morning to go surf pipe in the winter. And getting that experience, kind of shadowing him around the lineup and just seeing, okay, he's taken off here. Like, it's possible. Like, these are the ones you want to look for. This is where you can sit, like that kind of stuff. He was very, very instrumental in kind of how I read the lineup and that kind of stuff. But as far as like riding pipe, I've kind of drawn inspiration from a lot of different people, actually. Like, obviously, Hub is one of the best guys out there. So seeing the waves he takes and the sections he's hitting and just all that kind of stuff, obviously he's been an influence. Pierre, I thought he was one of the guys I looked up to a lot when I was younger, especially surfing out there. Just kind of how hard he goes out there. Like, he's pretty fearless out there, which is something that's very admirable. Later, once I kind of became a little bit more, not mature, but more aware of certain aspects of riding, Skip was pretty influential, just the way he would read his bottom turns, that kind of stuff. So I've slowly kind of like built, I wouldn't say that I like really just looked to one rider about how to surf it. I've kind of like tried to take the best of a bunch of individuals who I think have good traits out there. And that's kind of what I've tried to do.
Yeah, that's really cool. It's cool to break that down a bit. It's a lot of time spent there though, right? Like, how many over those
Yeah.
seasons, you're saying you're spending a couple of months, 3 months, like how much time on average do you think you've been spending on the North Shore during the season period? Have you just been there the whole season pretty much every year for the last 10 years?
No, I wouldn't say I've been there the whole season. I usually spend most of February there. So kind of like the few weeks before the event, and then I'll stick around for a little bit after the event. And then when I was still living on Kauai, I would pop over for a swell. I'd pop over for a week or two if it looked like there was going to be a good run of waves. So I would usually do like sometimes part of January into February through the month. I didn't get to go to, I missed the whole season last year, which was pretty devastating. But other than that, yeah, I would at least spend, I would say like a total of 2 months, 2.5 months on the North Shore every season for 10 years.
And that's really cool to touch on. I feel like that relationship to it coming from Kauai as because, and that's a bit I want to dive into now. It's a little bit of a new space, I guess, or a tricky space to navigate. So I'm going to do my best to ask questions and put you on the spot a little
Me
bit
too.
here. But like, I want to talk
All
about
right.
identity a little bit and about like your kind of growing up in Kauai, and then
Mhm.
you've left there though, like a few years ago now, I guess. You've kind of left living
Yes.
there, and
Yeah.
and how do you kind of feel about that kind of? Do you still see yourself as someone from Kauai, or are you who is Tanner McDaniel, I guess? And it's this tricky thing with kind of race and kind of ethnicity in Hawaii. I know that there's a lot of tension there, like so.
Yeah.
How does it kind of feel to you in that relationship with your Kauaian roots, you could say, but being a white guy on Kauai, and then you leave and you're on the mainland,
Hmm.
and now you've just won pipe, so you've kind of gone away and come back and got the crown. Like it's kind of this interesting kind of story arc, and I just wonder how that feels in your identity with it all.
Yeah, that's actually something that I've put a bit of thought into. So my family moved to Kauai when I was 3 years old,
Mm.
from Santa Cruz in California. So I have very faint memories of living in California when I was young. And then we moved to Kauai, and that is really what I feel like is my home. Like I grew up there. That's where my bodyboarding and my connection to the ocean really kind of stems from. So I've I've thought about it, and I still feel like when I'm surfing that it is coming from my connection to Hawaii. Um, so there's that. Yeah, it's a tough one because like I I don't know, and then also like I have those memories of like living in California when I was young, and I have family here. My whole family's from here. Um, so I did feel like a little bit like still feel a connection to California. So I don't know. I think I've just kind of, yeah. It's a tough thing to think about, especially, yeah. And there's a whole inner thing I'm going with going through.
Yeah, yeah, I get it. It's a tough one. I guess like the really short question that might get the short answer is was it Tanner McDaniel from Kauai who won pipe, or is it Tanner McDaniel from somewhere else, or is it just Tanner McDaniel?
It's just Tanner McDaniel. Yeah, it's just Tanner McDaniel. Yeah, yeah.
Cool,
And
cool.
even though I'm no longer living on Kauai full time, I still my family still lives there. My parents, my siblings are there, so I go and visit them as much as I can. And not being there makes me appreciate it so much more. When I go back to visit, I like enjoy the things that I kind of just used to take for granted there. Like like when I'm back on Kauai, I just feel so much happier than like before when I was living there full time. So it's me moving to California has kind of made me appreciate Kauai a lot more. And yeah, I guess I'm thankful for that.
Oh, that's really cool. That's really cool. It's a tricky subject. It's hard to navigate. And we have the same subject here in Australia in many ways. Like we're the colonial. I'm a colonial descendant. Like it's hard for
Yeah,
me sometimes to say or to feel like I'm Australian. Like it's a label that's really hard for me to have it stick on me. I know that there's a
yeah.
part of me that feels
And
really comfortable in Europe. Like there's this kind of bit of me that like feels at home over there. So yeah,
yeah.
it's really interesting to navigate this kind of stuff in these places.
Yeah, and it's weird, especially because I was born in California, so I always had that connection to it, and I never like I didn't put much thought into it until I was an adult. But like I know people would get angry when people would like call me Hawaiian, and I totally
Mm.
understand why. Like I don't like to be called Hawaiian because I'm not. I don't have any Hawaiian blood. Like I live there. I feel like it's my home, but I'm not Hawaiian. So I would, yeah, I understand why people have in the past gotten frustrated when people would refer to me as Hawaiian, when that people are very proud of being Hawaiian as they should be, and I'm not. So I understand why people would get angry when I get referred to as that. I grew up there. I'm not Hawaiian though.
Yeah, it's a tough one, isn't it? Are you from
Yeah,
Hawaii temporarily? Are you from the mainland? Where are you from? It's such a difficult question
yeah,
to answer, and no, I think you did a good job of it. It's a tricky question.
yeah. I've tried to
Bringing it
put
back
some
to
thought
more,
into it now.
yeah, well, that's obvious. It's obvious, and it's a really interesting thing. And let's like come back to the event itself, because I think one of the really cool things about the event was that there were a lot of Hawaiians in the event that we just had.
Yeah,
Right, there was a
it was
huge
awesome.
field.
It was awesome.
Yeah, and I think that and that Hawaiian culture really became, without any real plan, it became actually like a key um, feature or focal point for the event. It seemed like Hawaiian culture really took over, which I was,
Yeah,
as an organizer, all I wanted to do was kind of make sure that the event happened, that it
yeah,
happened in good waves, and then those are my two priorities. But then when this opportunity started to appear about embedding Indigenous culture into the event itself and making that like front and center, it was like a very easy thing for me to just kind of let happen. It only took one
yeah,
conversation, and then it just took its own life. And it was this really interesting
yeah.
experience for me because I didn't force it, as soon as
Hmm.
but nobody asked me for it. But as soon as I
It just kind of
engaged,
happened.
yeah, but then it became this, had its own momentum. And so I just wonder, like, with the Hawaiian kind of culture in bodyboarding, and it is very strong. Um,
Yeah.
what is there this huge? Is there a? I guess for you in your experience, is there this kind of undercurrent with Hawaiians to kind of be, to get that kind of respect and um, kind of recognition for their role here? Like, is there a thirst for it from from these new generations of Hawaiians to kind of say, yeah, we are here. We, like, they want that visibility. They want to show that they can mix it up and actually, take control of that wave. You know,
I hope so. Yeah. It would be, I mean, you still see them out there pretty frequently, and I hope they just keep going it. I mean, they got to own their, it's their spot. They got to own it. So I hope that they keep pushing and making it known that it's theirs, you know?
who of
And
the Hawaiian generation do you think is the kind of leading light on that question? Like, who are the guys that you look at and go, cool, they're going to push it?
um Kavika right now, I think he can just take it and go with it cuz yeah, he's surfing so good. Like he was ripping during the event. He's a super super cool guy. Like I was finally got to like really spend some time with him in Panama for the Bocas event. We were traveling together. So getting to like kind of hang out and cruise with him was really cool. We had an awesome time, and he's surfing super good. He's just a super humble and like very just awesome dude. So to see him ripping at pipe and kind of carrying it is awesome to see. And I think that
Super
he's kind of
versatile rider too, huh?
inspiring. Oh yeah. Yeah, he rips on the knee and stand up and yeah, he's killing it. Yeah. And I feel like he's kind of should be a pretty good role model for kind of the younger guys, younger than him, on Oahu, you know, because he's surfing amazing.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I think it was really cool to see. I feel like he just like transformed over 1 year for me. Like, I remember meeting him in Portugal. I think there was a year, maybe it was 3 or 4 years ago, where all these Hawaiians just suddenly rocked up in Portugal. I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. Heaps of Hawaiians here. You
Yeah,
don't really see that every year. And then
yeah,
and it's Sintra, which is kind of like, it's pretty grovelly wave, so it's not typically what you associate Hawaiians with either. And cold water, wetsuits, all this kind of stuff.
yeah.
And then there's this skinny little kid called Kavika who, he actually knocked me out of the bloody heat too. He actually beat me in a heat, and I was like, oh, that hurt. And this kid rips, so this is cool. Um, and then suddenly it's like he became a man overnight. Like, it's like
Yeah,
there was this skinny little kid 1 year, And then the next time I saw him, he was like a big, solid dude who was still bodyboarding like the skinny kid.
Hmm.
And then just seeing how he's prone. I think it's hard for guys who are versatile, prone and drop knee. I feel like it's really hard for them to become great at one or the other if they're really doing it along the way. But I do feel like of all people, like Dave Hubbard's proven that he
Yeah.
can mix it up equally as good now, prone and drop knee. But that's taken a long time.
Oh
Like
yeah.
that's taken years, but I feel like Kavika is already there at a very young age, and
Yeah.
I feel like, and also Sammy. To be fair, like Sammy definitely is already someone who can mix it up on both. But it's really interesting because Kavika's even younger, I think, and there's this kind of,
Yeah.
if there's one pick for me, it's him as well.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm a big fan of just his attitude. He's just a nice guy to hang out with, you know?
Yeah, that's cool.
And I just wanted to,
Yeah,
I was just when you were talking about kind of the way that the, just how everything for the pipe comp unfolded, I just wanted to touch on, the opening ceremony that Davin gave. That was just like the coolest, it was just such a awesome thing to be a part of. And like, it was intense and emotional and just like one of the coolest things I've been a part of for sure. I think everyone was just like kind of like mind blown about just the whole experience. Everyone was just like, yeah, it was a lot. It was awesome. I was just so thankful for him for doing something like that. It was so cool.
yeah, I know. It was pretty wild, and I think that it just really set the tone for the day. It was just this thing that really carried the day, and then the way that we wrapped up in the afternoon, it was, that whole ability for us all just to say what we were thankful for or grateful for. And I mean, when it came to the event itself, then, like, because I felt like you were having a lot of fun. Like, it looked like you were having a lot of fun. Were you trying to win? Like, were you actually conscious of a victory, or were you just out there just having fun?
I was really just out there having fun, if I'm going to be honest. I mean, I I wasn't 100% sure how I knew that waves were going to be scored. I wasn't sure how many waves they were going to count. So I wasn't really focused on that. I was just like, I get to surf pretty pumping pipe with 10 people out. Like, I'm going to have fun. I'm going to try to get the best wave I can. I'm going to try to rip, basically. That was my kind of mindset going into that. And yeah, just getting to trade off waves like that with 10 people out was that's that's a dream, you know? And um another thing that I kind of think played into my psyche going into the event was I hurt my shoulder in Bocas in like a couple days before the event. So wasn't even really sure how I was going to be able to surf because the movement of paddling is really what like hurt the most. Like I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to paddle out. Like I didn't surf the 2 days before the event just because I was nursing it. Um, so I was kind of like had that in the back of my mind. So I was kind of picky about the waves I chose. I was really just like, I just want to get a huge barrel, and if I get a wave that lines up for a ramp, I'm going to hit it. But it kind of forced me to like mellow out a little bit. I couldn't just go crazy and catch a bunch of waves and all that. I kind of had to like tell myself to like chill out, which I think worked in my favor because I ended up waiting for the bigger, heavier barrels rather than like if I saw a little inside ramp, there's a good chance I was going to try to go hit it because you don't get like to have that pick out there on a normal day.
Mm. Yeah, I could see that you definitely were more patient than I reckon you would have been otherwise. And that really was a key factor, I think, in the results. Patience seems to have been rewarded. For guys. I mean, I think just to wrap up, with this pipeline, event and how it kind of played out for you. You know, this is the beginning of a big year. You know, the IBC tour is coming back online. You're literally 2 weeks away from going to Eureka. I know you and I have had a chat about this offline, but like, how does this all factor for you now? Like where does your kind of interest sit in terms of competition when you've had this experience with the Boog Jam and now you've got the IBC World Tour coming up? It's a grind. It's got a lot more intensity in a different way, and it's more traditional. So how do you feel going into it, and what's your kind of plans?
I'm feeling confident as far as my surfing. Winning the Boog Jam has given me a little resurgence of like, okay, like I can still like, I'm still at this level, like I can still do this, but I'm gonna have to see how sharp I am as far as like heats go. You know, I'm excited. The last 2 years have been maybe a good break for me. I do have like that fire to go and win those events, so I'm excited for that. And yeah, I feel good. I feel confident. I'm feeling the best I have ever physically. That shoulder injury kind of forced me to take a look at some things, and I've had to not rehab it, but I've had to like do some stuff for it, and I've had to like go to the gym, and I've had to do all the stuff that I never really did before. So I'm feeling physically like the best I ever have, and I'm like pretty stoked on bodyboarding. Like I went out and had a grovel session yesterday, which I used to have a harder time doing. I would just go ride a stand up, or I would whatever. But I went out and actually like had a sick time like working on my combos and stuff like that. So yeah, I feel like I'm in a good place right now, and I'm excited. I'm really excited for Chile. I'm very excited for Eureka, obviously.
Yeah, you always like the ones you've won.
Yeah. Well, I've been in both finals the last 2 years, so I'm hoping to make it 3.
Yeah. Exactly. No, well, that's cool. Well, look, good luck with these events, and congratulations again on your big win, your pipeline championship. It's yours now forever.
Thank you.
That's a pretty cool thing. So stay on the line. We'll wrap this one up, and thanks to the pipe champ Tanner McDaniel.
The boogie.